middle of May of 1990. WCW is on the cusp of Capital Combat and there are a lot of loose ends that are looking to get resolved at the pay-per-view. WWF has a little over a month until their next pay-per-view and we're going to start seeing a lot of new feuds and storylines begin to develop this week. So you guys voice your opinion about episode 1 on the latest Twitter poll, results are in, and WCW scores their first win of the series. Here we see a comment from Trip Kim Gaming and he says, I say WWF better show overall, but that Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express show was awesome. The next poll will be up shortly after this video goes live, so make sure you let us know what your favorite match was. Alright, so let's jump into the matches for this week. For each show, just like last week, we'll alternate between WWF and WCW matches. So Tito Santana comes out to the ring, but he doesn't have a match scheduled. The announce team acts confused as to why he's making his way to the ring, but the crowd pops pretty nicely. He makes his way to the ring and grabs a microphone. He's here for one simple reason. He wants another shot at Mr. Perfect. He says, Mr. Perfect, you may have gotten lucky in the tournament final, but we both know a champion isn't made on luck alone. A real champion needs guts. And everyone in this building knows which one of us has the guts to be a real Intercontinental Champion. He says, I challenge you to a rematch for the IC title next week on WWF Superstars. Accept and I'll do you the favor of taking that title off your hands. I know it's probably a little heavy for you. The announcers say the gauntlet's been thrown, but I'm pretty sure combatants don't actually wear gauntlets anymore. The match that's actually scheduled to open the show is the lovable and always grimy looking jobber, the Brooklyn Brawler versus the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I'm pretty sure Rhodes is going to win this one, but let's take a look at the match anyways. The Brawler takes a swing, but the Dream ducks down and the Brawler's on the wrong end of an atomic drop. Dusty follows up with a kick straight to the face and I'm pretty sure this one's over. Dusty does his thing though and the crowd is so in tune with the Dream. This gives the Brawler a second to recover and the two lock up. The Brooklyn Brawler sends Dusty into the ropes, ducks under, and swings for the gut. Somehow he misses his target and Rhodes gives him a quick jab before setting him up and hitting a pile driver. The guys get up and the Brawler does an arm wrench and connects with a back kick. He's obviously been watching Karate Kid 3, which just came out on VHS. But Dusty's not having it and counters with a kick to the face. He picks up the Brawler, shows him how it's done, hits him with one of his signature jabs, and caps it off with a signature wind-up uppercut. Dusty gives the crowd a little dance and the crowd is absolutely loving the American Dream. Dusty whips the Brawler into the corner turnbuckle and delivers a knee to the face. He picks him up and whips him into the ropes, followed by a hip toss. Dusty then hits another pile driver and goes for the pin. This has to be enough, right? Nope. I guess the Brawler really wants to earn his paycheck today. The Brawler picks up Dusty up on his shoulders and carries him over to the turnbuckle and drops Rhodes face first on the turnbuckle. He kicks Dusty in the face a few times and then bounces off the ropes to deliver a hard running kick to the face. Dusty sells this pretty convincingly as he tumbles to the ground and looks to the ropes to get back to his feet. The Brawler looks to continue his attack, but Dusty kicks him downstairs and yeah, that'll stop anyone in their tracks. He delivers a hard elbow and goes for the scoop slam, but the Brawler has a little fight left in him. Dusty goes for a running shoulder block, gets countered. Brawler looks to capitalize, but he gets countered and then gets hit with another elbow to the face. Brawler gets up and is met with a snap jab, and then we see the wind up and Dusty hits his bionic elbow. Dusty goes for the cover, the referee makes the count, and the crowd really loves Dusty Rhodes. They're really popping for him to kick off the show. Alright, first up for WCW, we get a match between Stan Lane and Flying Bryan. Bryan is one half of the US Tag Champions, and last week Lane and Bobby Eaton earned a shot at the titles at Capital Combat. As we start off the match, Bryan tries to dodge a grab by Lane, but mistimes it and both guys' heads collide. Bryan stumbles back into the ropes and Lane looks to capitalize, but Bryan ducks down and sends Lane up and over the ropes to the outside. Lane assures the ladies in the front row that he's okay and climbs back into the ring. Bryan sends Lane into the ropes, ducks under and goes for an impressive looking flying clothesline, but Lane dodges it at the last second. Lane picks up Bryan off the mat, suplexes him into the ropes, and the Lane goes for another grapple, but Bryan dodges and unleashes a firestorm of punches and chops before sending Lane into the corner turnbuckle. He sends Lane into the other turnbuckle and comes at him with a full head of steam, but Bryan counters the counter with a cool looking kick to the gut. Bryan hits a nice looking Hurricane Rana and then runs off the ropes for an axe handle strike. He punches Lane in the face, which upsets a particularly vocal housewife in the front row, and then Bryan climbs the ropes and delivers a flying elbow drop of the highest quality. Things are looking good for Bryan until Lane gives him a kick to the junk, and that'll turn the tide in a hurry. Lane whips Bryan into the corner and gives a stiff punch to the face, and then check this out, he just grabs Bryan and tosses him clear across the ring. Another hard right sends Bryan back to the mat, and Lane follows up with a knee to the face. You can tell Lane has this unbothered aggressive poise to his attacks as opposed to Bryan's faster pace, split style. Lane applies an arm wrench elbow lock, but Bryan punches his way out, finally halting Lane's momentum. He capitalizes on the opportunity, dodging Lane's attack and hitting a technically impressive looking sunset flip. Lane kicks out just before the 2 count, but Bryan looks to keep his momentum going. He climbs the ropes and looks to set up Stan for a high-risk move. Lane peeks over and rushes to knock Bryan off the top rope, sending him crashing hard to the mat. He drops Bryan across the top rope and delivers a vicious stomp to the back of Bryan's knee. Bryan's not out yet though, dodging a punch and delivering a couple hard rights of his own, followed by a backhand chop. He hits a nice looking suplex and goes for the pin, but the ref is a little slow and he only gets a 1 count. Bryan mistimes a dodge and Lane sends him into the ropes, but the two men collide with Bryan looking like he got the worst of it. Lane jumps on the opportunity and hits his signature arm wrench clothesline, then he stomps right on Bryan's face and things are definitely not looking good for young Bryan. Lane scrapes Bryan off the mat, sets him up and delivers his patented double underhook piledriver. He covers Bryan with the pin, ref makes the count, and this one's in the books. Lane sends a strong message ahead of the upcoming tag team championship match. Nice opening match, and I like the way WCW tends to open with solid matches, even if it's between mid-card type guys. This next matchup should be a good one. We have the Rockers made up of Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels matching up against Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who make up the Hart Foundation. We get a good look at two future icons of the 90s in Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, but Marty Jannetty starts this one off for the Rockers against the Hitmen. Jannetty dodges the strike, goes on the attack first, connecting with a few punches before sending Bret into the corner and connecting with the clothesline. Bret always sells these so well. Jannetty picks him up and tries to continue his attack, but takes a hard chop to the chest and a hard right followed by a sidewalk slam. Bret sends Marty into the corner but takes an elbow to the face. The Anvil sneaks in a cheap shot and Bret tries to capitalize but gets another elbow to the face. Jannetty tries to climb the ropes but he's in enemy territory and just gets pushed off the ropes by the Anvil and he looks like he lands hard. Hart tries to capitalize again, but Marty keeps fighting his way out, kicking his way out and then hitting a flying crossbody out of nowhere. Hart takes a kick to the back but fights back with a punch to the gut. He locks up with Jannetty, flings him over the top rope. Jannetty's able to land on the ring apron and punches Bret in the face when Bret tries to suplex him into the ring. But then check this out. Jannetty gets back in the ring and Bret absolutely decimates him with the clothesline. That had to hurt. He connects with a quick leg drop and then we see him put Jannetty in the abdominal stretch. He grabs the leg for extra leverage, but Jannetty eventually gets himself out of it. Bret goes for a backhand chop, but Jannetty ducks it. Jannetty picks Bret up and delivers what looks like a Michinoku driver. Bret kicks out at 2, but Jannetty sends him into the ropes and connects with a hard back elbow. Absolutely great back and forth between these two guys to start the match. Bret goes for the pin, but Jannetty kicks out before Michaels can get over for the save. Bret Hart goes for the gut wrench suplex, but Marty Jannetty is able to get free and goes for the win with a victory roll. Bret goes for a flying crossbody, but Jannetty dodges and Bret hits the mat. And then finally, Jannetty walks over to his corner and we see our first tag of the match. Michaels dodges a grab by Bret and hits a quick jab and goes for another, but he's blocked by Bret and he connects with a hard left forearm followed by a fireman's carry. Bret picks Shawn up and hits him with the pile driver. Then he goes right for a cover and Jannetty has to come flying in for the save. I love how the Anvil casually throws Jannetty back out of the ring. Bret gets back to work on Shawn, hitting a neckbreaker, but he's starting to look pretty tired, and Shawn is able to capitalize by hitting a flying forearm and kips up while Bret lays on the ground. He picks Bret up and sets him up for a suplex, which he hits, and the look of pain on Bret makes me grimace for a second. Man, Bret Hart can really sell. Shawn climbs the ropes and hits a diving crossbody, and the crowd sounds impressed. He goes for the cover, but Bret kicks out before 2. Shawn looks to continue the attack, Bret hits him with a few elbows and slams Shawn down to the mat. We finally see him make a tag to the Anvil, and I'm already out of breath. Anvil wastes no time in tackling Shawn Michaels to the ground. He stomps on Michaels a few times and then blatantly chokes him while the referee is like, I'm not going to be the one to tell him he can't do that. Shawn crawls for cover in the corner. The Anvil laughs maniacally and kicks him in the stomach again. Shawn tries to fight back, goes for a flying forearm, but look at Anvil just send him crashing face first into the mat. It looks like the Anvil's done toying with Michaels, so he tags Bret back in, who's barely caught his breath. Shawn gets 2 feet up connecting with Bret, and that's enough to give him time to tag Jannetty back in. Marty and Bret slug it out for a bit, with Bret getting the better hand of the exchange. He then slams Jannetty to the mat and tags the Anvil back in. Jannetty saw what happened to Shawn, so he's ready and hits Neidhart with a flying elbow, almost before Jim realizes he's the legal guy in action again. Marty goes up to the top rope, but again, he's in the wrong corner, and he gets sent careening to the mat. Anvil punches Jannetty square on the jaw and then puts him in a sleeper hold. Look at the face of pride he has here. Shawn comes in for the save, and Bret sends Michaels flying out of the ring as a reward. Neidhart hits a hard axe handle smash and goes for the pin, and it's so close to a 3 I had to rewind a few times just to make sure. And I'm still not sure it shouldn't have been a win for the Hart Foundation. Neidhart scrapes Jannetty off the mat and hits a devastating power slam. Surely it's over now. Michaels slides in and gets a save at the last second, and it's the second time the Hart Foundation should be the one on the way back to the locker room with the win. Neidhart hits a knife-edge chop, and this busts Jannetty wide open. Jannetty finally shows some life, kicking Neidhart in the face as he goes for another attack. He dodges a punch and gets in a jab, but gets decked by a hard right. The Anvil sends Jannetty into the ropes, but both guys collide, and the Anvil tackles Jannetty so hard he sees stars. Neidhart poses and laughs again creepily, and that's just the opportunity Jannetty needs to make a tag and get away from this madman. Michaels comes in and hits a back heel kick that busts Neidhart wide open. He does bleed, he's not a machine. Michaels is pumped and the crowd doesn't know what to cheer for, but they know they're witnessing one hell of a match. Michaels sets Anvil up from the top turnbuckle, and he's really going to try to superplex this man? Sure enough, he goes to the top rope with him and pulls off an impressive superplex. The crowd is just losing their minds. The Anvil manages to roll out of the ring and Michaels barely walks towards him before abruptly turning and crashing into Bret Hart. Neidhart gets back in the ring and everybody looks exhausted. Michaels sends the Anvil into the ropes and out of nowhere hits a pop-up super kick. Oh my god, they're gonna get the win. He goes for the cover, but Anvil is coherent enough to reach up and grab the rope. The crowd is at an absolute fever pitch at this point. Michaels pulls Neidhart up and hits another super kick. He's exhausted and collapses to the floor. He slowly crawls over and manages to make the cover. Bret Hart comes flying in to make the save as Jannetty was just a bit late getting into the ring to stop him. He sends Bret Hart out of the ring and it's now or never. Shawn sends Anvil into the corner, but Neidhart fights his way out. He sends Shawn into the ropes, ducks back down, delivers a hard knee to the gut that sends Michaels reeling in pain. He goes for the pin, but Michaels somehow kicks out at 2. Anvil can't believe it. The referee calls for the bell as time limit has run out. Incredible match is just going to have to end in a stalemate. Both teams are gunning for the gold worn by the Demolition, and it's going to be an interesting road to see who becomes the #1 contenders. Now go ahead and pause the video and catch your breath. Grab yourself something cold to drink, because sheesh, what a match. Next up on WCW, Lex Luger comes out and it's pretty simple. He wants Flair to come out and face him like a man, without the rest of the horsemen. He says Flair doesn't have to be afraid, he just wants to talk. He'll save the beating for Capital Combat when he takes the belt from him. The whole crowd starts clucking like chickens, but Flair doesn't show up. Luger says he knows Flair's in the building and that before the night ends, he will track him down. After the promo, we have a tag team match between the Samoan SWAT team that's made up of Samu and Fatu against the Rock and Roll Express, which of course is Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. Like usual, the crowd is loving it, but the Samoan SWAT team start the attack before the ref can ring the bell. Samu chokes Robert Gibson from behind and the ref looks way too afraid to break it up. I guess since the match hasn't technically started, it's all fair game. The match officially gets underway and Samu hits a hard slam. He runs off the ropes and hits Gibson with a falling headbutt. He picks him up and delivers another hard headbutt. Someone check on Robert Gibson. Samu goes off the ropes looking for another headbutt, but Gibson moves out of the way at the last second. He finally gets up and goes on the attack. The crowd roars to life as Gibson gets in a punch and a few kicks. The two grapple and Gibson pulls off a sunset flip out of nowhere. The Rock and Roll Express are so much fun to watch. Gibson almost steals the match, but Samu kicks out at 2. Gibson hits an inverted DDT, and that sends Samu rolling out of the ring to regroup. Gibson makes the tag and we get our first look at Ricky Morton, but Samu comes back with some hard closed fist punches. He sends Morton into the ropes and almost knocks his head off with a back elbow. Morton fights his way out of trouble, sending Samu into the ropes, under, then over, then capping it off with a Hurricanrana. He's fired up and so is this crowd. He keeps momentum going with a kick to the lower back and that's enough to send Samu rolling out of the ring again. Morton tags in Gibson and he immediately springboard dives off the ropes to the outside. Samu sees it coming though and dodges, sending Gibson crashing to the mat. Samu sends Gibson into the guardrail as the crowd is stunned at the beating that continues on the outside. Back inside the ring now, Samu hits a pop-up Samoan drop and that has to be it. Morton rushes in and saves his longtime teammate before Fatu can stop him. Chaos ensues in the ring before Fatu sends Morton out. Samu looks to finish off Gibson, but he counters and hits a one-leg dropkick that looks like he connects hard. Samu doesn't know where he is as Gibson picks him up, sets him up, hits his swinging neckbreaker, and goes for the pin. The ref is right in position, he makes the count, and the Rock and Roll Express come away with the victory. Interesting contrast in styles here in a short but fun match that the crowd got pretty into. Next on WWE, we find Mr. Perfect in the locker room and he's going to be responding to Tito Santana's challenge. But let's split this video into 2 parts, so make sure to click over here for the second half of this week's matches.